All right. Get Gary to come back up here. I'd like to call the May 2nd, 2013 City Council to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Thank you. Mayor Turley. Gary Brevetto.
Here.
Bob Carlson.
Here.
Terry Harrison.
Here.
Carol Harvey.
Here.
John Schaefer.
Here.
Eric Smith.
Here.
Thank you.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a number of items this evening under ceremonies and presentations and appointments. And the first item, I'm going to turn to our David Buttery, our city manager, to go ahead and invite the group up.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Smith. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the commanding general at Fort Carson felt that it was important that some of his subordinate units create relationships with some of the communities in the Colorado Springs area. In the fall of 1991, the battalion commander of the 4th Engineer Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Kerry Pierce, began working with Mayor Prentice Porter and Clark Becker and the Kiwanis Club and Ken Matthews to create a partnership between the 4th Engineer Battalion and the community of Woodland Park. That partnership was formalized in February of 1992 when a proclamation was read to the community about the partnership. In May of 1992, a separate flagpole was added to Lyons Memorial Park specifically for the 4th Engineer Battalion. In the period of time between May of 1992 and today, the battalion has been very much involved in the community of Woodland Park, participating in parades, actually providing some engineering support in the demolition of part of the old middle school. Members of the community of Woodland Park have gone downrange Fort Carson to witness some live fire exercises, demolitions, and the like. We've attended each other's formal affairs. We've sponsored spa days for the ladies of the battalion. The battalion's participated in Mayor's Cup races, and we've exchanged briefings about the city and about the Engineer Battalion with the community. After 9/11, the Army reorganized, and the 4th Engineer Battalion, as we knew it, went away. And the relationship with the community went away because the battalion no longer existed. And the framed engineer flag on the wall behind council was presented as ending this relationship after some number of years. Well, as the organization of the Army changed, the 4th Engineer Battalion came back into existence. And Mayor Steve Randolph and I approached the commanding general at Fort Carson and said, we'd like to reestablish that partnership. And he was extremely helpful and supportive of us doing that. The Army's changed since the early 90s when we formed the partnership. At that time, the Berlin Wall had fallen, the Warsaw Pact had gone away, and the threat was just less. The Army's changed. After 9/11, soldiers were deploying all the time, and so the last thing on a commander's mind was spending time with a partnership unit. So we felt very fortunate that the 4th Engineer Battalion wanted to reestablish that relationship with us, and they have in a wonderful way. They again are participating in Christmas parades. They're providing static displays for Oktoberfest with equipment. We've attended, I see folks in the audience who have been to some of the pre-deployments with some of their subordinate units. They provided security and road guards for the Pro Cycle Challenge. In just one short month, the battalion will be deploying to Afghanistan for an extended period of time. And joining this evening is the battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Hibner, and his wife, Teresa. If you could come to the podium, I'd like to share a couple of things with you. First of all, the picture that we have displayed is of Lyons Park, and you see on the right-hand side the Corps of Engineers flag, and it's been personalized for the 4th Engineer Battalion. We've always flown that flag when the battalion was in existence. The previous battalion commander suggested that we should only fly that flag when soldiers of the battalion were in harm's way. There's a company of the 4th Engineer Battalion in Afghanistan right now. The flag's been up for over a year, and it will be up for another year. So it's a constant reminder that we have friends, we have people that we're associated with who are in harm's way. And so that flag will remain flying until all the 4th Engineer soldiers come home. Dan Hibner took command of the battalion recently. He's prepared them for combat. He himself is a seasoned combat veteran. He's had several deployments. He has earned the Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars. He's Airborne Ranger Air Assault qualified. And I can tell you that all of those credentials mean nothing compared to the credential of his lovely wife, Teresa. Teresa is the one who keeps the home fire burning. They have 3 children. She's done this before. She's gotten Dan ready to leave. She's watched him walk out the door, and she's watched him come home. And so tonight, we're honored to have you here this evening before you deploy, and we're honored to have you here so that we can support you as a community any way we can. So please, what would you like to say to us?
Thank you. I can't compete with that. That was awesome. But I will say, Teresa and I have been luckily in the Colorado Springs area for almost 5 years. For an officer of my grade to stick around that long, it's pretty hard to do. But we love it here. And within our first year, well, I deployed right away. And I came back, and one of the first places we came to was Woodland Park. And it wasn't only the scenery that makes this place beautiful. It's the people, it's the feel, it's the community, and it's just a wonderful place. And who knew that just a little bit more down the road that I would be able to maintain this relationship that was established so long ago and kept going. And then to have a part of that is just truly an honor. And to do the things for the community that we're able to do is an honor for us. It really is, because we're treated so well. We're looked after. Clearly, we're looked after all the time, and I can't thank everybody enough for that. It's been my honor in almost a year as a commander of this battalion to have this relationship, because it's special because of the people in this community. And I want to thank you personally, David, because you have been the glue for a long time that keeps this relationship as healthy and as close as it is. Because I can't say for sure, but I kind of doubt that there's a better community relationship between an Army unit and a community than this one. And I'm just happy to be part of it, truly. So thank you.
Don't leave just yet. Please come back to the podium. Okay. The Mayor Pro Tem has.
We're not going to let you get away that easy.
Dang it.
I know I speak for all of us when I say that we really appreciate what both of you do for our country. Thank you so much. Teresa, I know that it's very difficult, and I couldn't imagine what that would be like. So thank you to both of you. I know that Mayor Turley really wanted to be here this evening, and it was difficult for him not to be here. He sent me an email earlier today, and he's having some difficulties, I guess, traveling with some snow. I think that we just
we know about that.
Yeah.
just went through, and but he wanted me to pass along his gratitude and just to let you know that he's always thinking of you guys, and was definitely wanted to be here and wanted to thank you personally. And with that, I've got a couple things that we'd like to give you. So if you would just stay there for a second.
Oh, wow. I can't believe you got me flowers.
I knew that red was your favorite.
Yeah, that's right. Engineer red.
That's all
We'll
right.
start with the most important.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
And here's a pen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much.
Appreciate it. That is for you.
Thank you.
And best to you. And stay safe. We'll look forward to you coming back.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You too.
All right. I think everything from this point forward is going to be tough to follow. So, but we got to move on. So the next item on the agenda are appointments to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. For that, we'll turn to Cindy, I understand that there are 3 openings and 4 applicants.
That's correct. 3 terms expired April the 1st. And pursuant to your policy, we advertised and also sent letters to the incumbents to see if they would be interested in reappointment. 4 applications were received. 2 incumbents, Patrick Pine and Donna Engel, submitted applications, and 2 applications were received from new members of our community, William Sinclair and Stacy Licklider. Donna Engel is unable to come tonight, as is Stacy Licklider. Mr. Sinclair is right there in the gray jacket, and Patrick Pine is in the back row next to Cindy Keating. So we have 2 here and 2 unable to attend. You've received copies of their applications with your packet. The last thing before we consider appointment is to let you know that council's policy requires that we let you know the attendance report for the returning members or the reapplying members. In 2012, the Parks Advisory Board held 9 meetings. Donna Engel was present at all 9 meetings, and Patrick Pine was present at 6 of those meetings. The term of office for each of these 3 positions is 2 years. What questions may I answer?
Questions for Cindy? So what we've done in the past is invite folks to come forward that are here, and then I think by ballot, we typically do a ballot and then make our selections from that. So is that the way the council would like to proceed this evening?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Pine, would you like to come forward and tell us a little bit about yourself and you've been on the board?
Do either of you 2 have a phone up here that should be turned off?
Right here? Okay.
Yeah, right there. Please state your name and address for the record, and then we'd like to hear about why you like. You're currently on the board, correct?
Yes.
Why you like serving on the board? Why you want to continue? And then there might be some questions.
My name is Patrick Pine. I live over by the golf course at 110 Flagstick Drive. Used to be a neighbor of Brian, wherever he is. Good neighbor. I've been on the board 2 terms. Moved down here 5 years ago. Basically, my background is 40 years in recreation, athletics, coaching, teaching, private and public recreation. And I guess I feel that that business has been real good to me for 40-some years. I'm now retired, and I like the community, and it's time to give back. The reason I'd like to stay is probably, number 1 is to keep Cindy in line, because she seems to get crazy sometimes. So anyway, that's me.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Mr. Pine, you had 3 things that you thought were the most pressing issues for the board that you're currently on. Update to Memorial Park, open up more local parks, and expand the trails. What do you have as a vision for Memorial Park?
Well, we actually were just in a meeting the other day about that. My vision is to make Memorial Park a destination park, not only just for the local people that live here, which obviously you know where it is and use it a lot, but I think it can be a destination for tourists that come through. I moved from a ski area named Winter Park. They had a very similar situation to you guys in that Highway 40 went right through the middle of town and divided Winter Park and Fraser into 2 parts of town, just like 24 goes right through the middle of Woodland Park. And they are still struggling with how do they make that work, because you have all this traffic coming through. I know the businesses would love to have those people stop. In my opinion, one of the destination spots for them to come to could be Memorial Park. It's centrally located right in the middle of the business district. Could be, with a lot of tune-up, I think, a very attractive and welcome facility, not only for the local people, but for people out of state, out of town, going to Cripple Creek or heading up to 11 Mile to fish or just coming through town. And I think if it was marketed and promoted and fixed right, it could really add to Woodland Park, much like the shopping in Manitou does for Manitou. So anyway, I think it could be a real star once it's fixed in. Is a little more, I guess, useful than it is today. So that's my number one. And I think that's pretty much the whole board's consensus that it's there. It's a shining star that just needs to be shined.
I agree. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you for serving.
Welcome. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Don't
Mr.
go-
Sinclair.
Don't go far.
How are you this evening?
I am great. Good evening. Nice to see you guys.
Good to see you again.
Were you my neighbor?
I was.
Were you my neighbor, John?
Yes, I
All right. Now, don't hold that against me, okay? I mean, make it fair. Be honest.
Well, you brought up Brian as a good neighbor, so. Please state your name and address.
Bill Sinclair at 1250 Mountain Meadows, 5 houses from the 7th hole of Shining Mountain Golf Course. We moved to Teller County in August of 11. We moved to Woodland Park in October of 11. We have 6 children. We have 4 grown children. We have 2 at home, a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old. I've been a volunteer coach in football, baseball, soccer, etc. as I was raising our first 4 children. Spent many, many days and nights at the YMCA in Wisconsin, where I volunteered for, and I know it'd be hard for you to believe, but for 3 years in a row I played Santa Claus. I know you figure I'm a little slim for that, but I could use a pillow or something like that. It'd be nice, Carol. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. I want to serve the community. I've always been active. I work for the Ute Country News. I meet Gary at chamber meetings. I came in to see Terry one day to see if he wanted to advertise and get that glass company moving. But that's who I am. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Sinclair?
Well, I'm going to go back to, again, the 3 things that you've cited as probably most relevant for the board.
Right.
Financial support, quality facilities, and the fact that we have a shortage of volunteers.
Right.
You want to pick one of those to speak to?
Well, I know that when you're having as many activities as we have here in Woodland Park, the different sports, etc., that there's always, a shortage of parents and, grandfathers, grandmas, and grandpas to volunteer. So I would like to see if there's any way that I could, work to get more volunteers in the community. The other thing, I try to stay ahead of the game, and I know that you have a great punt, pass, and kick. Both my boys participated in that this last year. There's a new program that you may not have heard of called Drive, Chip, and Putt. There's nobody in the state of Colorado that is participating in that. There's about 6 or 7 states participating. The golf courses participate, and then several weeks later it goes to a regional, and then it ends up at Augusta next April, prior to or during the Masters, where they have the finals of the drive, chip, and putt. And I'm just wondering if I could, with the help of the committees here, we couldn't start something like that here that would spread throughout the state. But we would be the initiator of that program.
I'm intrigued. I might have a volunteer for you at home.
So it in the state, they're only going to the states like that people think of as golf states: Florida, Georgia, Texas, etc. I've been on the website several times, thinking, how could I? as an individual living on Mountain Meadows, I couldn't do it, but as a member of the committee, there's a possibility that I could spread that around to, get that thing moving here in Woodland Park as part of the rec program.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Bill, you might tell them that you can guarantee them an extra 20 yards at this altitude if you.
20 yards if what?
You can guarantee them an extra 20 yards on their drive at this altitude if you want.
There you go. There you go. That's a good idea. Yes, Robert?
Yeah, I'm a neighbor of yours also on Windflower, just up around the corner from
Okay,
you.
sure.
So, anyway, welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you very much. If you can't stop on your way by, at least wave when you go by, okay?
Any other questions?
I've seen Bill out shooting baskets with his kids. So he definitely ought to stick to coaching.
Tough crowd.
You never saw me dunk one.
No, I didn't.
Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
To serve.
Okay.
All right. So, Cindy, are you prepared with ballots? Or I guess David is. So the two incumbents are Patrick and Donna.
Correct.
Bill and Stacy are the new applicants. Correct. So we vote for 3.
That's right.
Cindy, is there any alternate positions for the Park Advisory Board?
There are not. was an alternate member of the Utilities Advisory Committee, was appointed by this group to serve as a regular member of the Utilities Advisory Committee, which created a vacancy for the alternate position. Pursuant to your policy, we advertised, and on April the 9th, Renee Bunting submitted an application for this position. The bylaws set the committee membership at 7 regular members and 2 alternate members. The term of office for this position will expire May 31st of next year. And Renee is here this evening if you have any questions for her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Renee, would you like to come up and tell us a little bit about yourself? I haven't known you to be shy. So. Please state your name and address.
My name is Renee Bunting. I live 57 Stacy Lane.
You want to tell us why you're interested in the Utility Advisory Committee and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll see if we have any questions.
Okay, well, the reason why I was looking at the Utility Advisory Committee is I'm very interested in the water supply, and I would like to know more. We actually lived in Woodland Park in the city limits before we moved out to the county. So the first thing I did coming from East Coast was put these water collectors on the gutters to collect the water. So my neighbors across the street after about the first rain came over and said, "Hey, what is that thing?" And I said, "Oh," I said, "it's really cool. You can water your grass." And they were like, "Oh." So then here come the police who I got to meet, and I was like, "Great." So I thought I was doing a good thing, but no. So now I have a rock garden everywhere in my yard, so no water collecting going on. So I thought this was very interesting, and I really was asking about it. I asked Lee, because we're on another committee together, and he told me that he was going to be running for the position, and he said it's going to be open for the alternate. And I said, well, I would look into that. I really want to get more active in the community. I mean, I am active in the community, but I want to be more in the city as well.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions for Renee?
Are you in the city now, or
No, I'm in the county.
is that a problem with? Okay, so people can be on the advisory board.
In fact,
Okay.
there have been many. When I first joined the advisory committee, we had members that were outside the city.
Okay, well, welcome. I appreciate your enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's good. Any other questions? No? All right. I guess you get off easy.
Thanks.
Renee.
You bet.
So we have one candidate. I think we could probably move forward with the motion and go through that process rather than a secret ballot.
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve.
Yes, motion to approve.
Okay, and a second. All right, Cindy, roll call.
Thank you. Motion to approve Rovetto,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Smith.
Oh, no. Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you.
And I do have an oath of office for Renee.
Renee, please come back up.
I, Renee Bunting,
I, Renee Bunting,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Colorado,
and the state of Colorado,
the charter and ordinances
the charter and ordinance
of the city of Woodland Park,
of the city of Woodland Park,
and that I will faithfully perform
that I will faithfully perform
proclaim May 4th, 2013 as Woodland Park Wildfire Preparedness Day of Service, in witness whereof I am hereto to set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Woodland Park to be affixed the second day of May 2013.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could also announce that what the community is doing as part of the Wildfire Preparedness Day, the governor has also proclaimed May 4th as that day in the state of Colorado. A couple of folks, the Friends of Forest Edge and also in Majestic Park, have partnered with the city and Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District, and I suspect the Sheriff's Office as well. But on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, in the Forest Service, there will be numerous opportunities to learn about mitigation, things that you can do on your property, around your house, to prepare for the inevitable again. So 9 o'clock, Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District on Saturday morning is where the activities will occur.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on, we've got another proclamation declaring June 8th, 2013 as Arbor Day, and I will read that as well. City of Woodland Park Proclamation, whereas in 1872 J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, now therefore, I, Eric Smith, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Woodland Park, do hereby proclaim June 8th, 2013 as Arbor Day in the City of Woodland Park, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to support our city's community forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated the second day of May 2013. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next item. Every year we get to go through this report. It's important, and I'd like to turn to Kelly Case, our Finance Director, for presenting the comprehensive annual financial report for the year ending December 31st, 2012. And Wendy Swanhorst is, I'm sure, not here. Okay. Perfect.
And actually,
Kelly's not here.
Kelly isn't as well. She had a family quasi-medical emergency that's caused her to be in Denver since yesterday afternoon. So I'm going to be doing my best, along with Cindy, to fill in for Kelly. And Austin Bump was the lead auditor for the Swanhorst firm. So he's got even more information than what Wendy would have. So we're going to turn it over to Austin for the presentation.
That's right.
And then Cindy and I will do our best to answer your questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity, and I'm disappointed Kelly's not here. Really, we don't have a lot of room in this industry to say the positive things. Our guidelines kind of say that what goes in writing has to be the recommendations and things like that. And I really want to give Kelly a lot of credit. I understand that everyone's been given a copy of the comprehensive annual financial report. And then the other thing, and I think this was distributed, we call this the management letter. This is a letter to governance, and this will be something else I'll talk about. But really, you know, Kelly deserves all the credit. That CAFR, as we call it, that's the city's product. It's not our product. We have one page in there, which is the independent auditor's report, and that's where we kind of summarize the audit process, and we give you our opinion. terms have kind of changed with auditing standards. We now call it unmodified. It means the same thing. It's a clean opinion. And our responsibility is to obtain sufficient audit evidence to determine that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. And when we say an unmodified opinion, that means that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. The audit process, just to recap, we actually come down with an audit team. We spend a week in the field in interim, so we come down before your year end, and we try to take care of a lot of internal control testing. And that's when we really look at how do the systems work? How do you process cash coming in, cash going out, that sort of thing. And then we come back, and we actually came back in March, and we do another week with an audit team, and that's what we would call kind of final field work. And that's where we're really getting into numbers. We're tying out ending balances and really making sure that there's no misstatements in any of that information. So we come down for a week. We spend a lot of time. The audit process is really a lot behind the scenes, and I know it's kind of stressful because it's intense and it's in a small, short amount of time frame, and it's just great to come down here and work with everyone. And I just have nothing but positive things to say about how the city functions and certainly how Kelly, her role as finance director and how she's able to put together a lot of this information, which it takes a long time. And it's a smooth audit process. We come in and we really walk out of here Friday with everything completely done, and that's just a testament to how efficient Kelly is and staff here, and that we're familiar with kind of our side, and we can get through things quickly. So that's kind of a little bit of the recap of the audit process. Back to the management letter, or this letter to governance. This pretty much just summarizes everything I just said. It communicates our responsibility. This is the written document that we, according to the auditing standards, we have to communicate to the board, which hires us, or council, sorry, which hires us. And this is the opportunity where we can make any recommendations. We had one recommendation, which is actually carried forward from prior year. Nothing in this letter indicates any deficiencies in any of the internal controls or any of the financial information in how it's put together. And so, really, I think it's a great process, and we have a good relationship, and it was fun, if you believe it or not, to be down here. So if there's any questions, really that's why I wanted to come, to be able to answer anything, and obviously Kelly's not here to give the kind of full presentation, but I'd be happy to help any way I can.
Well, a copy of the report was emailed to us, and I guess if you want to ask for one.
Sure, we can provide hard copies. That was offered to you. There was one request, and we fulfilled it that I'm aware of. Before we begin asking questions, I want to remind you that the audit does two things. What Austin and his group were looking at were did the systems within the city meet generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, and that's what he has given us a clean bill of health on. What I also look at are the end results, the fund balances, because that is what allows me to make recommendations to you about the future of our budget. So if you have questions about the process in generally accepted accounting principles, that's Austin's venue. If you have questions about the fund balances and those types of things and how we might look at things into the future, that's my bailiwick. And if you have those kinds of questions, I'd ask you to wait until I finish my presentation, and then I'll answer those that I can. So do you have questions for Austin about the process?
Any questions? Bob?
Well, I'd love to hear what you have to say first. So before I ask Austin any questions,
Sure.
you may cover
we
it
can
all.
come back.
So we can come back.
Yeah, Austin's not leaving.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to let him go just yet.
Just some general questions. Austin, how many other cities of this size do you audit?
Several. We actually kind of have a full range. We do a lot of larger cities in the metro area. I think, it's hard to kind of compare cities when you say size, because that could mean funds, it could mean dollar amounts. But I would say that at least 10 that are probably in this ballpark, comparable in that type of size, I guess, to the city.
Well, not that it really matters, but how do we compare to those other?
You're going to put me on the spot with that. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying. Financial performance, that's kind of something that you guys would do internally. As far as how the audit process goes, I think governments in Colorado, they're required to have an audit, so they know that it's coming every year. I think that being prepared, that's something that is a luxury more often than not. unfortunately, that's not always the case when we kind of come down and we're ready to get through things. And so from that standpoint, you have a great finance department. Kelly's prepared. She's ready to go. You know, she's got all the information together. It makes the audit process smooth.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Any other general questions for Austin? And go ahead, Bob.
In the comparison business, how well are we off financially?
And that would be something that, again, it'd be hard for me to answer that. It kind of goes back, you know, I'd be more, if you have any questions about the process or how the audit goes, I wouldn't be comfortable kind of going through a lot of that financial information that you guys really know more internally.
Any other questions, or we'll go to David and let him tell us what he thinks where we are.
Thank you. Thanks, Austin.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, the audit is not the budget, and so many times the terms are not the same in each of the documents. I think you've heard from Austin and from the report that from a GAAP perspective, we're in really good shape. And I would suggest to you that from a financial perspective, we're extremely healthy as well. Just some points to make. Remember that the bottom line reserve balances are the things that I will be bringing to you in the near term to talk about our goals and objectives. We're extremely healthy in all funds. Many of the changes that you might have seen from the 2012 budget, the 2012 projections, and the 2012 audit, and you now understand what those three terms are, had to do with mid-year transfers to support the FEMA project, the East Fork project, those things that we thought we were going to do in 2011 and we didn't do in 2012. So the 2012 fund balances in some areas look larger because we saved that money and we then budgeted it in 2013. Remember, we're doing those two projects now, and that's several $100,000. The 410 expense, the revenue was up. Our expenses were less than what we projected, so it's extremely healthy. In the DDA, numbers are all over the board, but remember what happened in the DDA this past year. We had a sale of land, we incurred debt, and the DDA entered into a construction contract. But at the end of the day, the DDA is as healthy as it has ever been. I'm not prepared to go through page by page. I'm certainly available to do my best to answer questions. If I'm unable to do that, because this is Kelly's bread and butter, we'll schedule a time where she can come in and we can sit down and we can review some of the details. But I'm happy to talk and answer as many questions as I can. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, David. Bob?
Thank you. Yes, I'll reserve most of my questions till the follow-on meeting. But I did look at your introductory letter, and I'm not proposing to change it because what stands is there. But on page IV, 4, you talk about what's happening in the community, about the prospects for long-term financial planning, and you talked about the DDA and the economic climate perhaps improving. But something this last year that really impacted this community was approval of Karis College, which will bring 1,300 people into this community. As you know, I think that's going to be a big impact. I mean, we saw their economic analysis in there, and I just was wondering why you overlooked that, or what.
It was not an intentional omission. That's a great comment. I don't have a reason that it was left out.
But yeah, I'm not proposing to change it. But I think we need to acknowledge that as part of our financial future.
Thank you.
I don't know who this question goes to, you or not a team, but it applies to the GAAP, General Accepted Audit Accounting Practices. And there was a restriction for street improvements of $782,000, and it says it was basically required by GAAP. So can you explain that?
Yeah, there are different components to fund balance. And actually, there was a new accounting standard that was out last year, and I think this was presented to council also. that revised the fund balance terminology. And you guys may have been used to seeing this reservation was kind of a term that was used in these CAFRs or these reports in the past. And this new accounting standard clarified certain components of that fund balance. And restrictions mean external, third-party, outside contracts, something like that, that would actually enforce a restriction on that dollar amount. And with the street improvements, certain things are restricted. Maybe you guys have a sales tax that was done by a vote, and that would restrict, say, revenues to a specific project or a specific capital, type improvement. And then you would have Tabor's a great one, restricted for emergencies. That's an outside state-enforced restriction of fund balance. So it's really just a terminology thing. It's an indication that there is an external restriction on that money.
So it's not like a reserve then?
It would kind of be more, if you would go this way, it kind of be more restricted than a reserve, I guess, if you would.
It is a balance that is restricted for use by the ordinance and the bonds that were written for that. So it is somewhat analogous to a fund balance or a reserve, but it is restricted in the sense that it can only be used in certain things.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Right.
Anything else, Bob? Any other questions?
In 2011, the city was awarded a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. We did not receive one in 2012. Is there...
So 2012 has not been submitted yet.
This is 2012.
So this is the the document that gets submitted. Yeah, and actually another point, just because we were talking about the transmittal letters, is what's in the beginning of this document, and this might be kind of a good clarification for everyone. What the city submits to GFOA, and that's what that award is, and that's that Government Finance Officers Association. They review, tons of these reports from around the nation, really, and the report has to meet certain criteria in order to even kind of qualify to be reviewed. But then you have to have all these different elements. So the transmittal letter, which he was referring to, which is that first part of that document, those are actually just included in what we call these comprehensive annual financial reports. And the other elements that have to be in here in order to get that certificate are the statistical section, that management's discussion analysis, which is in kind of right behind that transmittal. Those are kind of the three sort of additional pieces that allow that document to qualify for that GFOA award. So the 2012 one will be submitted, and it probably already has been by Kelly now. They can submit electronically. And so they'll review that over the next couple months, then they'll issue the award, and then that award will be in your next, in your 2013.
And for the record, we've received that 19 years in a row. So.
Yeah.
Good job.
And that that checklist, it's 73 pages that these GFOA reviewers go through. So it's a big thing, and I think a lot of people think it's kind of it's a membership thing, and you give them some money and you get plaque. But there's a lot of requirements in there, and that's great from an audit standpoint because we really help to ensure that award kind of comes. We sort of go through any recommendation that they had from prior years. We're kind of that last line of defense to sort of help make sure that kind of comes to you, and you guys can put the plaque on the wall. So.
Any other questions? Another one?
I guess a final comment, in line with that first comment about the financial future of the community. I noticed in Table 17, the demographics and the economic statistics, that our population since 2002 has only increased 3.3%, but our personal income increased 51%. The per capita personal income has gone up 46%. So in that 10 years, there's been quite a shift in the demographics of the city. And as far as financial, I think that brings incumbent upon our as council to make sure that all members of the community are considered when it comes to financial decisions, that we take care of everybody in our community, and because I think we have some resources that are able to do that.
John?
You've been the auditor of record for how many years now with the city government?
Yeah, that it's been a while. What we do, and I actually, Wendy would know that, just because what we do is we rotate kind of all the staff and supervisors, so you're kind of always getting a fresh audit, and that's how we maintain our independence. And so although I've come down to supervise this, just this year, I know that we've clearly been your auditors for, at least over 5 years, I believe.
Well, I think it's closer to 10.
Yeah.
You're new.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've seen Wendy every year. So.
Yeah.
And I realize there's a value in each party knowing how the other operates. But have you ever been put in a position where you think it's time to establish a new relationship?
It's a good question, and it's something that a lot of governments are facing now, and a lot of councils are kind of reevaluating that, and it's really a trickle-down effect from what I would say, more FASB is kind of the other side. It's the for-profit accounting standards, and you remember from the explosion of Enron and all this stuff, and how that kind of trickled down, and then Sarbanes-Oxley. This is all kind of technical stuff, but they created this kind of mandatory auditor rotation. And that happened, and I think it's important to distinguish this. That happened on the for-profit side, SEC traded companies, the for-profit companies. The governmental sector is controlled by a completely different set of accounting standards. And there's nothing in any of those standards that say that you can't have an auditor for 20 years. And I know that we've been here longer. I think I wanted to say 5 because 5 is kind of the contract year, the term that they use in this for-profit sort of standard thing. And so I think there's more value in keeping an auditor than there is in rotating auditors. And I believe you get a better audit because you have auditors that are familiar with your systems and they're familiar with your controls. And so I'm not having to spend all my time learning how you operate as a government. I know how everything works, and I can get into more of the detail and really get down to kind of the pennies here, rather than a different audit firm that would come in and they would spend a few years just trying to get a handle on how do things work here, and what are the different departments, what are the funds, how does the revenue come in. And so I think there's a lot more value in longevity with your auditor.
You don't think there's any risk?
The way that we counteract the risk is kind of what I mentioned before. Our standards say that we have to be independent always, and that's in appearance and fact. And the way that we achieve our independence, and this is something that we have to evaluate every year, and we have to document this in accordance with auditing standards, but the way that we maintain our independence is that rotation. Although you're kind of under the same firm, you get a completely new audit team, new supervisor, new manager. It's a completely different review process from our standpoint. So it's as if, and this is kind of maybe a stretch, but it's as if you have a different firm coming down. The only thing that's kind of the same is the partner, and that's always a cold review. And so that's never in the detail. That's never, kind of compromising any independence. So I think in many ways, there's not a lot of risk there, and it can be mitigated.
Any other questions? Yeah, I'll just make a comment. And Terry, I know you've been through this many years. I've been through it quite a few years now, and every year it seems that we get the same report, which is doing a great job. Kelly and her group, they do great work. And so, anyway, it's kudos to them and the way that we run the city, and I know that we've had a long history with Swan Horse as well. So, Austin, appreciate you coming down this evening.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. You're exactly right. The less you hear from us, the better.
And George wasn't here this year, so we didn't get quite into some of the details that maybe we would have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Austin.
George was our independent auditor. All right, moving on. Item 5 on the agenda is additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. I don't believe we have any.
That's correct.
Okay. Item 6 is the consent calendar. And before I read this into the record, I just want to remind council and let everyone know that when we have quasi-judicial items on the agenda, and we do this evening, some are within the consent calendar and some come later. Those are times where we do use electronic media, but I just want to remind council that we're not supposed to answer any texts, emails, read anything as it relates to somebody that could be outside providing information that anything that's quasi-judicial requires that we hear the evidence here in this room. So please be mindful of that, and don't get those texts from somebody that's sitting at home watching the internet wanting to provide information. So, all right. And I know there's a great statement that we usually read in the record, but we didn't have that this evening. So that was better. Thank you. All right. So item 6 is a consent calendar. We have 4 items. One is to approve the minutes of the April 4th, 2013 regular meeting. The second item is to approve the March 2013 statement of expenditures and authorize the mayor to sign warrants and payment thereof. The third item is approve an application from Casa Grande Mexican Restaurant for renewal of a hotel and restaurant liquor license. And the final item is to approve Trout Creek Road Improvement Agreement between the City of Woodland Park and Schmidt Construction Company. And with that, are there any questions or comments? Bob?
Yeah, on these expenditures, I normally, most of us ignore it, but sometimes what I, well, but I usually look for the big numbers, okay, and if they're, you know, in line with what I remember from the budget, I don't have any problems. But I did see one this time for Bobcat of the Rockies, purchase of a compact excavator for $29,000. Was that in our budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a small, very small excavator track. Absolutely.
That's
it was within the RLF, so you probably wouldn't recall that full amount to remember how the RLF works.
Okay. No wonder I missed it, but thank you. And that's the only comment I had on the expenditure document. Can I raise a question on one of the other 4 documents?
Sure.
Okay. The other one had to do with the Trout Creek Road. You mentioned how much was budgeted for it, and that the bids were in, but you didn't mention the bid amount, but you said the delta should be used as a contingency for any change orders and that sort of thing. Normally, contingencies are in the 5 to 10% range on awarded contracts, and I was just wondering if, in fact, the balance that is available is kind of in that range.
Absolutely. In fact, in the under the agenda item 6D, construction contract agreement approval, in the first line, it talks about what that amount of the contract is, $541,000, and the budgeted amount was $680. So absolutely, that's within that range of
It sounds like the contingency is more than 10%.
Well, it is more than that. That's true. I mean, there was a budgeted amount,
Right.
and typically within a budget amount, we've rolled in a contingency.
Right.
The bids came in this low,
Right, that's
so that gives us money that perhaps we can, for your direction, could send over to another project, expedite another roadway or something like that. Or if this one has unforeseen issues, which it could, we have the ability to fill that gap and not come back to you and say we need more money for this particular project.
All I'm suggesting is that, you know, at some point you may want to transition some of that excess contingency to do another project.
And that's what we always do.
Okay.
John, you had a question?
How many bids did we get on that Trout Road?
2, Schmidt and I think Rocky Mountain Construction.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments on the consent calendar? Otherwise, is there a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you, John.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar as it stands. Cindy?
Thank you. Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Brevetto?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, moving on to item 7, unfinished business. We don't have any this evening. Item number 8, ordinances on initial posting. We have one item. Consider ordinance 1185, annexing a tract of land depicted as Rosemont Road right-of-way and Sandwash. And I turn to Sally for that.
Thank you, Mayor Pro
Prior,
Tem.
if I could, Eric, prior to that, this was listed on the agenda as quasi-judicial. While parts of it are, parts of it are not. For the purposes of tonight's discussion, this is legislative.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sally?
Thank you. This is the annexation ordinance for the Rosemont Road right-of-way, a portion of Fountain Creek sand wash and together with a small portion of Laura Lane. Because the city is the sole owner of this property, the 1.46 acres, and it is contiguous to the city, there is a very streamlined approach in the state statutes for the city to annex its own property. You'll recall that this property was deeded to the city recently from Teller County in order to facilitate the Fountain Creek drainage project. And with that, we would recommend approval of this ordinance 1185 on initial posting and set the public hearing for May 16th. Have any questions for this first initial posting?
Any questions for the item on initial posting? Is there a motion?
To approve for initial posting.
Thank you, Carol.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the item on initial posting and set the public hearing for May 16th, 2013. Cindy?
Thank you. Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Rovetto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, moving along. Public hearings. We have 3 public hearings this evening, and the first public hearing item is to approve an application from Thunder Mountain Holdings, LLC, doing business as Studio West, for a new beer and wine liquor license. For that, we'll turn to Cindy.
Thank you. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce to you the General Manager of Thunder Mountain Holdings, LLC, Studio West, Darlene Holloway, who's in the audience this evening. For the audience, the application details are that the LLC has a current sales tax license and federal ID number. The applicant is eligible to apply for the license. The location is eligible to be licensed, and possession of the property is documented by a warranty deed. This application was submitted to our office on March 12th. The property was posted with one of our famous signs on April 19th, and public notice was put into the newspaper on April 17th. All the applicable fees have been paid, and as you remember, this request is for a new license, and when that happens, the applicants are asked to obtain signatures on a petition form in approval for the issuance of this license by the City Council. That process was followed. A petition containing 28 signatures of residents and business owners was submitted in support of the granting of this license. I've received no negative comments and no opposition. Darlene is happy to answer any questions that you may have. The purpose of this license is to be able to offer adult beverages to her clients. What questions may I answer?
The only question I have, what is the difference between an establishment that has wine tasting and one that sells?
The wine tasting establishments that we have, and Darlene is currently one of them, they are affiliated with a local winery throughout the state of Colorado. There are a number of them, and they are a branch office, if you will, for tasting and sales for those wineries. The state licenses those particular tasting rooms, not the city, although the city does receive a copy of them. So the state license for a tasting room is Colorado wines only, and only wines from that Colorado winery or wine manufacturer. This license will allow service of all manufacturers, all types, not just a local state one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions of Cindy before we ask the applicant to come forward or open the hearing? Darlene, would you like to come forward? You can, or if you
I
want.
promised her she didn't have to make a speech, but she can say hello.
Okay, it's up to you. Why don't you come on up? We don't require it, but we want to give you, as the applicant, the opportunity.
Always willing to
Please state
advertise.
your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Darlene Holloway. My address is 6770 Boulder Street, Green Mountain Falls.
Great, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to share, or we
No,
see if council has any questions?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
I find this an interesting business model. I mean, you have a hair salon.
Yes.
And then I mean, certainly your clients would probably be interested in, snacks and beverages and stuff like that. Is this kind of unique in your business?
Well, it's unique to Woodland Park and a lot of businesses. We have been a tasting room for almost 2 years now, and it's quite a carrot. People love it in every retail situation. It is unique. We're sort of building that downtown area based upon it. What we found was that it's so successful that we are looking forward to not just representing one Colorado winery, but being able to represent several and also add craft beers, which is important to Woodland Park. So, which is always kind of a nice carrot for a guy who doesn't drink wine and wants a beer, which I haven't been able to do to this point. It has worked wonderfully for us for this almost 2-year period. I don't think people come to get a pedicure so they can have a glass of wine, but it may prolong their visit. They may look at some of our boutique items or have questions. Notice that we actually do other services there, facials, massage, things they hadn't noticed before. So it's a very relaxing, we just love it. And our customers, yes, you're right, they love it too. Yeah.
Terry?
Darlene, and of course I've been to your store several times and having you and Ralph for clients. And I can't think of any time that I ever seen any of it being served. So I guess it was the timing that I was there.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Well, yeah, they get broken into every once in a while. But
you come early
actually,
after the break-ins.
Who actually serves it? Are you required to have tips training for?
We've already had it. All of our employees have gone through that process, but we limit the service. They must request it of the service person who's doing their hair. That person comes to the desk and requests a glass of Merlot or whatever. I serve it, or our desk personnel person serves it. That's it. Because we want to limit our exposure to a mother ordering for a child or an underage service or whatever. We're very particular. Yes. Very limited.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
You bet. Y'all join us.
So with that, I'd like to open up the public comment period for this item. Is there anyone that would like to come forward that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing no one rush to the podium, we'll close the public comment period. Any other questions?
No, but I have to agree, and I think this council and more councils are going to see more and more innovative marketing ideas on how to get more and more customers to their stores. So I know 2 or 3 others around town that this is going to come up, and it's going to come before council. And personally, I think it's a great idea.
Maybe glass as well.
The beer thing. I mean, we actually have 3 breweries within inside our own city limits. And if Mike Bristol was correct the other day when I talked to him, Colorado was number 1 in the nation for microbrews. So it's really something that I believe the city can play on. So I'll be voting yes on this one.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Thank you. Cindy?
Thank you. Harvey?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Rovetto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Move on to item B, and thank you for, I guess before we move off that, for your doing business in Woodland Park. Moving on to item B, approve the transfer of a hotel and restaurant liquor license application from Wild Wings and Things to Heron Inc., doing business as Wild Wings and Things. Cindy?
Thank you. This evening it's my pleasure to introduce the new owners of Wild Wings and Things, doing business as Wild Wings and Things, Heron Inc., Jared Heron and Dustin Dizelle in the audience tonight. They are the new owners of this business. The current license is held by Jeremy Fortin, and these folks are operating on a temporary liquor license, and that's permitted by the state liquor laws as long as we have the permission of the current licensee. Their possession of the property is documented by a lease. They do have their state sales tax and federal ID number. They are both co-managers. They both live in Peyton, and they own no other interest in any other liquor licensed establishments. We received the application and the associated fees on April the 12th, put the sign up on May the 5th. We did issue the temporary permit on March the 15th, and their fingerprints have been submitted to CBI. We expect no negative history based on the background investigation, and our recommendation would be approval of this transfer of ownership contingent upon receipt of the CBI fingerprint report. What questions may I answer?
How long is the temporary permit active?
120 days.
Any other questions? I'd like to invite the applicant, if you would like to come forward. It's up to you. Welcome. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jared Heron, 12427 Ellingwood Peak Place, Peyton, Colorado.
Thank you.
Dusty Dizelle, 19980 Warriors Path Drive, Peyton, Colorado.
Great. Thank you very much.
Any questions? You guys want to move up here?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
It is a bit of a drive, but it's a beautiful drive.
That's about 100 miles round trip for us a couple times a week, so it's quite a trip.
We got a few real estate agents.
Bob?
Well, I want to thank you for your interest in businesses in Woodland Park, and I was curious as to how you made the connection, that far away.
For Wild Wings?
Yeah.
I actually had a Wild Wings out in Falcon. It changed its names to Matt's Wings several years back, but I had a chance to meet the owner back then, a guy named Mike. And so when I saw this one come up for sale, I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. I mean, beer, wings, and football, you just can't beat it. So pretty good wings, and I love the area up here. Our goal is to really get involved in the community as much as possible. We got a couple of ideas to really kind of shake things up, and I think the first few days we were up here, we looked like lost little puppies. Cindy was amazing, and Susan back there has been amazing, and we're really starting to get a feel for the community here, and we're loving it. So it's been a lot of fun.
Did you inherit the chicken costume?
I did.
You know how much trouble that chicken caused.
When we first started looking at the business, he actually sent me a link, and I said, whoa, I don't know if we want that kind of attention.
27 months, I think. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good luck.
With that, we'll open up the public comment period for item 9B. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period for item 9B. Council, any questions? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion to approve in a second. Cindy?
Thank you. Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Brovetto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
And before we move on, I'd like to say thank you, or welcome to the community, and we look forward to seeing great things. So.
Thank you guys very much.
All right, moving Moving on to 9C, the last item under public hearings, approve application for the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce for special events liquor license for the Chamber's 16th Annual Rocky Mountain Oktoberfest to be held September 21st and 22nd at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. Cindy?
Thank you. As you stated, this is the 16th Annual Rocky Mountain Oktoberfest Plus. It will be held this year at the Ute Pass Cultural Center and then the green area and pavilion west of the center. A contract for the facility use has been signed and is on file at the Cultural Center. The hours of liquor service will be 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on September 21st, and the same for September 22nd. The event manager is Debbie Miller, president of the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce. She is present this evening to answer any questions you may have. The area where the alcohol will be served is fenced and controlled, and all servers, including the volunteers that work this event, are tips trained. The facts are included in the staff report. Application received March 21st. All the fees have been paid, and there have been no other special event permits issued yet this year. Recall that these kinds of groups are eligible for 10 of those special events on an annual basis. This is basically the biggest event that the Chamber has. What questions may I answer?
Bob?
Just a comment. Any Oktoberfest that stops serving beer at 6 o'clock at night, it's kind of unworthy of the name. So can you explain?
I guess we can ask the applicant that. Any other questions of Cindy before we move on to Debbie? I guess not. Debbie, can you please state your name and address for the record, and then we can answer Bob's question.
Debbie Miller, 1246 Ethereal Circle, Colorado Springs. Councilman Carlson, if you actually look at Breckenridge and their Oktoberfest, they end at 6 in the evening as well. So
we're following a bad example.
they have a very successful event. So
it was more tongue-in-cheek anyway. So.
I'd be happy to answer any questions. We did break all records last year in attendance. Over 2 days, we had 6,700 people at our event. It's the first time we've ever sold out of food by mid-Saturday afternoon and had to replenish 3 different times. So.
That's great. Any other questions for Debbie? Debbie, anything you'd like to add? A shameless plug or anything?
You know, it's quite the community event. It takes about 300 volunteers to put this on. We have volunteers from all different organizations. It gives everyone an opportunity to plug their organization there by wearing logoed shirts or whatever, but it's truly a community event. We pull a majority of our people up from Colorado Springs, and the last several years, as David mentioned earlier in the evening, we have a great relationship with Fort Carson. We have our Beer for Boots program, which David kicked off for us, and things like that. So it's a great opportunity to have that relationship with the military and bring them up as well.
Okay. Anything else for Debbie while she's up there? Okay. We'll move on to the public comment portion. Is there anyone that would like to come forward that would like to speak on item 9C? Seeing no one, we'll close the public comment period for 9C. Council?
I'll move to approve the application for the Chamber for the Oktoberfest. I don't care if they do close at 6.
So I have a motion and a second. Bob, I saw your hand go up.
No, I was going to second, but everybody else jumped in.
I guess everybody's excited.
Yeah.
Want to go? All right. Cindy?
Thank you. Smith?
Yes.
Brometto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Moving on to new business. We have one item under new business this evening. It is a follow-on to something that we started addressing a month ago, and this is to consider Resolution 756 implementing Level 2 watering restrictions for the City of Woodland Park. I believe it was a month ago plus or minus, that we implemented level 1 watering restrictions. And for that, I'll turn to Kip.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. I'd like to present Resolution 756. If approved, Resolution 756 would implement a more restrictive level 2 water restriction effective Thursday, May 9th. First, I'd like to go just through current augmentation conditions, local conditions, give you a brief update on augmentation water and storage, and obviously our staff recommendation, and then answer any questions. The augmentation water, if you guys recall, this is the water that makes it legal for us to pump our local sources. This is the water that we replace to the stream that what is consumed from our local sources. The first graph I wanted to show is the Colorado Basin, in which the majority of our augmentation water comes from. The dark blue line is this current water year. The red is the average, and as you can see in April, we jumped up quite substantially, and we are just below average for this time of year. We still didn't get quite to the peak of the average, but with all said and done, we couldn't have expected a better April. I just wanted to point your attention to the light blue line as well. That was 2012's water year, and production for water that year was very low, and obviously conditions were very hot, and a lot of water evaporated that year.
Kip, could I ask a question? So I realize that we've gotten closer to normal, but is it safe to say that the area under the graph is important as well?
Yes.
Because, so even though we've hit normal, so to speak, for 1 month, I mean, we've missed out on snowpack that might have melted and gone into the reservoirs and that type of thing. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
The next graph is the other basin where we get our augmentation water, the Arkansas Basin. Same scenario here. We're a little bit further below average. The dark blue line is this year. The light blue is last year. Again, April was very good. You can see where the first peak in the dark blue line is where it peaked and it started to melt. We did receive some gains in water, and then those were halted by the new snow, and those gains have stopped, and we got more snow, so therefore we'll be getting more gains. Any questions on this graph? For our local conditions, I like to show this graph. This represents local water levels, and this is basically from the top down to where you see the line is basically the top of a well casing down to the water level. So the further the dot down, or the data point down, the lower the water level. You can see a slight trend of water levels decreasing. However, all the way to the right, you can see a short increase in water levels, and that is due to the recent snow melt we've had here, and that is typical this time of year. We are not at historical lows anymore, but we are slightly above, so there still is some concern with our local sources. Any questions on this graph? This graph is probably the most important of them all. This represents our augmentation water that's stored. This is what we have available on a month-to-month basis. I'd like to point your attention to the red dotted line, the green dotted line, and the purple dotted line. Those represent, the red is 100% of capacity, the green is 80%, and the purple is 60% storage capacity. Those are what we kind of use as indicators and triggers where we're at. The top blue line is water in storage in 2011. You can see in May where the line starts increasing to the right. That's where we receive gains. Our gains stopped. Our usage increased in the summer months, as well as evaporation. I like to show that. 2011 was a great water year. 2012, as you saw in the previous graphs, was not. You can see where snowpack was down and we didn't receive those gains we used water and water evaporated, and that is the red line with the red squares. As that line slowly went down, it was just we were using more than what we were getting, and with evaporation. And the yellow line is current water year. That includes any gains we've gotten so far year to date. April's numbers should be in anytime this week. I anticipate that to jump up probably between 350 and 400 acre feet, and continue with the recent snows that we've gotten. However, in a given year, we use about 300 acre feet of augmentation water. So I think it's really beneficial to implement Resolution 756 to save as much water this year for next year, in the event next year is a bad year like 2012. Any questions on this graph? What level 2 water restrictions means? Right now we're on level 1 is outdoor watering 3 days a week. Level 2 simply goes to 2 days a week, and the breakdown is as you see.
And I asked this question last time, Kip, but it does not apply to drip irrigation, correct?
No, ma'am. Yes, sir.
And how many more levels are there?
This is our most strictest level. If it was worse, we would have to reevaluate where we're at and go further.
I know that we go into some detail here, but I've also driven by places that their automatic sprinkler systems come on automatically, okay? And so it could be raining, and they're still watering their grass even on the day that they're allowed to water their grass, okay? Is there anything in this that would allow us to say, hey, let's have some intelligence here as far as when you set your sprinklers so the golf course isn't being watered in the rain or individual sod grass lots?
No, and sometimes it's beneficial to water in the rain, but we do not have anything in place to restrict that. We just simply ask use water wisely.
Okay.
Any more questions? Staff's recommendation is to approve Resolution 756, implementing Level 2 water restriction, May 9th.
I did have one more question. You do public sports fields and parks may be watered 4 days per week due to their heavy use by our citizens. Is there a distinction there on? I mean, I can understand our playing fields, soccer, baseball, etc. There are some parks that don't get used. I mean, do we water the grass in most of our parks?
Nope, just public sports fields.
Just park fields.
Aren't there public sports fields?
We do have at Crestview. We've got some irrigated space, and also Lions that are irrigated as well with spray irrigation.
And there's a good reason to do that.
Absolutely, because they still receive a lot of impact. It's not as much as say the sports fields, but we too are sensitive to that, and we try to reduce the amount of water that we use on those.
Thank you.
We use AstroTurf a lot too in the sports.
We have two. We have Panther Field and then the soccer field.
Don't need to water that.
Any other questions for Kip? Any discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve Resolution 756 implementing Level 2 watering restrictions. Cindy?
Thank you. Rovetto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harvey? Yes. Schaefer?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you, Council. That was a pretty long agenda. We're not quite done yet. Moving on to number 11, public comment on items not on the agenda. And I do have some folks signed up this evening. And I guess we'll just start at the top and work our way down. So, Jason Mikesel. I'm sure I didn't say that right, probably.
You got it right.
Oh, good. With a name like Smith, you know, it's hard to... Anyway. welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, for the chance to speak to you this evening about our annual golf tournament that we will be running this year. In the past, we had teamed with Northrop Grumman to have an annual golf tournament which supports our volunteer programs. These volunteer programs include the reserves, the Teller County Sheriff's Office posse, and the search and rescue groups. What we found in the past is you may have seen these folks at different events throughout the county. They support the city police department, Cripple Creek Police Department, Victor area, and different emergencies that happen within Teller County, such as the Waldo fires, evacuations, and different events that are held within the county of Teller. We have close to 130 different volunteers that assist at any given time, and they unselfishly give that time to us. One thing in the past was they've always had to purchase their own equipment, uniforms, out of their own pockets. Normally, this time of year, I would have close to 160 volunteers. The problem is after the Waldo fire and the different fire or the events that we've had in the last few years, they've been burnt out. That's a lot of out-of-pocket expenses upon them to keep those units running. So what we have done was we have partnered with different programs to enhance those groups. And that funding goes to a 5031C called the Teller County Sheriff's HDSA program, which funds those events. We had decided to go away from Northrop Grumman, and we have teamed with the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb Association to assist us with that. So this year, they are now our partners in that program. In so doing, they have given us several spots to assist in showcasing our community that is assisting the Teller County Sheriff's Office in getting those funds for us. They've provided 8 different Facebook postings and some fan fests and attaching us to their websites. What we've done is we've asked for a $500 to $1,000 sponsorship. The $1,000 sponsorship will include your own hole at the golf course, those now 7 posts on the Facebook page showing that you are assisting us with the golf tournament, and attaching us to that different websites. The golf tournament we decided this year to hold within Teller County at the Shining Mountain Golf Course. They've agreed to assist us with that. The golf tournament will be on the 25th of June this year. The other thing that we did was in the past we have always gone to Colorado Springs and some local businesses to assist with the golf tournament. But due to the fact that we are able to showcase this event this year and endorse some of the businesses in Teller County, we want to keep it in Teller County. So we've approached the different cities within Teller County, which would be Cripple Creek and Victor, and we'd like to approach you also to sponsor the golf tournament this year with us.
Okay, well, we'll let David mull that over.
And I'll come back perhaps with a recommendation at the next council meeting.
Okay, I think that's appropriate.
And just FYI, they both are giving $500, the City of Victor and the City of Cripple Creek.
Yeah. Well, they have a lot of gold around there.
Any questions I may answer?
Any questions? Comments?
How many people do you expect to play in the tournament?
We have 144 spots, so we're hoping for 144.
Yeah.
Each person to play in the golf tournament, if they do not have a sponsorship, is $75 per person. The sponsorship of $1,000 also gives you that 4 positions or 4 golf players. So, and that also is lunch and golf carts and all the swag that goes with it.
Nice.
Thanks.
Renee does have a copy of the golf tournament. We'll hand out to each one of you also.
There we have it.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Renee, you were signed up as well. I assume that was for...
I was gonna...
All right. Awesome. All right, we have one more. I know they've been patiently waiting. Doloretta.
Oh.
How are you this evening?
I am very well, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Buttery, for inviting me this evening. My name is Doloretta Barber, and I am representing a group called Welcome Home Warrior, a group that supports wounded warriors and their families by taking them to the mountains for a little weekend of counseling and fun. So Woodland Park, in my estimation, you know, we always saying it has altitude. Well, I believe it's got a lot of attitude as well. And I am going to use that attitude to help me to raise funds for this very, very important organization. My plan is, since I believe the altitude here is approximately 8, come on, council, tell me what it is.
8,460.
All right, thank you. My plan is to make and put 8,465 yellow ribbons on a beautiful tree over there in Lions Park. I am taking it upon myself to request funds from this whole city. Every cat, dog, man, woman, and mouse in this city, I want to sponsor this event. This is what your tree is going to look like, and we will have already created, once we put that last ribbon on the tree, a Guinness World Record. I am hoping that Guinness will send somebody in. Sometimes it's difficult for them to do so, but I already know from them that if we accomplish this, it'll put Woodland Park and our Welcome Home Warriors in the Guinness Book of World Records. I think it would be very, very good for Woodland Park. I think it's something that the community can get involved in. And I was talking to one of the veterans here from the VFW, and they have a big event going, a week-long event going at that time, and we are going to get involved with them as well so we can cooperate and work together on it. I would truly, truly appreciate, talk to your neighbors and your friends. Tell them what we're doing, you know. And it's simple. Even if I get a donation of $1 per ribbon, I'd be a happy camper. But I would really love $10 or $50 or whatever it is. We are asking businesses to sponsor. We're only asking $80 for a sponsorship. So if you have a business and you have friends and you have relatives and you have neighbors like me, please knock on my door and say, I want to help. I want to do something for our soldiers. They are so important and they are hurting so badly right now. They need us and they need our help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing all those ribbons on the tree. So, thank you very much. All right, moving on to reports. Well, I guess I'll just ask, is there anyone who did not sign up that would like to come speak for any reason? No? All right, so we'll move on to reports. Under the mayor's report, I've got a few items here, if I can get organized. So we received a thank you from Choices as it relates to the donation that they received from the Community Investment Fund. We also received a thank you for the same item from the Colorado Mounted Rangers. So I'll pass those along if you guys want to read them. There's 2 upcoming events in Woodland Park over the next couple weeks. So Saturday, May 4th, which is this Saturday, is the Scootin' Boots and Boogie Benefit Dance for Woodland Park Music Series. It's from 7 to 9 o'clock p.m. at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. It's $10 per person, and the Black Rose Band is going to be featured and playing. The second item is Friday, May 10th, so a week from tomorrow. It's a leader cast at the Woodland Park Community Church. It's the Chick-fil-A leader cast, and it says excellent speakers, and check out the chamber website. That is something that I went to for the first time last year, and I'm going to go again. And if anybody is interested in hearing a lot of great people, and it's a diverse group of people that speak. It's definitely worth the time and the money. So that's something I would definitely suggest. Those are the two items that, or the multiple items, I should say, that I have. Council reports. Gary? Bob?
In line with our earlier discussion of wine tasting in town, I think the 11th, aren't we having a national wine tasting day or something?
It's called Wine Tourism Day, and it is a national level event. Actually, it's Colorado, I'm sorry. It's a Colorado level event to bring recognition to Colorado wineries. There are some of the tasting rooms in town that have joined together to create a passport that if you go into one and you buy that, you can go into others as well. So it's a day to highlight just the wine industry. Thank you for that reminder.
Anything else? Harry?
Oh, I do. This is a lot of fun, David. Thank you for letting me do this. But I did notice, and I'll bet we can compare this to the other 2 years. And I do know that two of the guys in this picture are the oldest players on this team, and they're the only two in all 3 pictures. David, I, and Kip got the privilege of playing in the 3rd annual Pikes Peak Lions Club Donkey Basketball Tournament. And those of you that didn't show up, you'll be shot later. But this is absolutely, it's not the biggest event, but I can guarantee you it's probably one of the most hilarious events that we have inside the city. You've got a whole lot of people out there that really think that they are accomplishing something, and all they are is passengers. Because I can guarantee you that the animals know a whole lot more about playing this game than any of us. And I think we got to give credit where credit's due, because Kip Wiley over there, I think is the only one out of 3 of us that scored. And these are high-scoring games, folks. I mean, we play for a whole 10 minutes, and I think in the first game 6 points got scored, and that's from both teams. And they don't have free throws. But anyway, we were privileged enough to ask to come back and play again. We teamed with the city or teamed with the school, and the fire Tyler Lambert, our fire chief, came down and played with us. And we actually, the last 2 years, we have taken 3rd, and this year, with the help of a lot younger folks, David, we finally got us a first place plaque. So, and I know David has a trophy.
Were you the only team?
Carol, I was thinking that. Thank you. Anything else, Terry?
No, that's it. But the donkeys do get all the credit, I guarantee you.
Carol? John? No. All right. Okay. Ms. City Attorney, do you have a report?
I have.
Okay. And now we're going to move on to City Manager and Department Manager's report. And we have one item listed, unless there's something else, David?
Nope, just the one item from Brian Fleer.
Mr. Fleer.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, good evening. Just some updates on current activities regarding Woodland Station. You'll notice some cones in Highway 24, specifically for Park Street and Highway 24. CSI is mobilized to build a dedicated right turn lane and a dedicated left and through lane to Park Street across US Highway 24. We've had some weather delays, but we're in good shape, hopefully, for the next week to move forward. You'll also see, in concert with that, Tom Lucina's project has submitted some expansion plans and renovation, which will be ongoing as well. You'll see some activity there over the next several weeks as well, in concert with what's going on with CSI in that area. And just kind of a schedule, Center Street will come after Park Street in terms of improvements, so we'll see a steady progression of activity over the summer. And again, we're staying close to the merchants and any concerns or questions that may come up regarding retail exposure, access, parking, etc. So again, if you get any questions, please feel free to contact our office or Bill Osbach. We're working very closely with Bill and his guys, Keith Wilcox as well. So hopefully everything is in good shape. Woodland Hardware is progressing well. We're still looking at a before the end of year opening, hopefully CO. It looks like that's in good shape, and moving forward you'll see activity there as well. Family Dollar update, you've probably seen some tractor trailer movement there loading the store. They're projecting a May 15th opening, and we don't see anything slowing that down, so hopefully that'll, for those interested in being able to go to the grand opening, you'll see that happening. The end of June, 24th through the 25th, in concert with our Main Street program application, which we'll be submitting in July, Downtown Colorado Inc. will be conducting a downtown, what they call a downtown assessment. There'll be quite a bit of community interaction and notification of that event. Essentially, it looks at our strengths and opportunities that we have currently in the community to do the assessment to fulfill the requirements of the Main Street application. So that'll be an ongoing process with DCI and DOLA. As you recall, Main Street is out of the DOLA program. Stephanie Trowler, who heads that organization, a high level of communication relative to our efforts and interests in the Main Street program. Woodland Park beautification efforts, as part of our economic development budget, we've split it up between Bill Osbach, Public Works, and Economic Development. Public Works, as you recall, has the planter islands. Economic Development has the baskets and banners. With the help of Jan Kummer and Tanner Coy from the DDA board, we've come up with, I think, a very effective design for new banners that have been ordered. There's been a lot of staff interaction regarding color, design, etc. Those have been ordered. We hope to have those in place, 80 of them. There's alternative sequence design that I think are very attractive and will be hopefully first part of June. I want to again thank Suzanne Brown of Bill Osbach's staff for running logistics, including design coordination and pricing. That's been an ongoing effort, and Suzanne's done a great job with that, and again, I appreciate her effort in that. We also have begun what we call an OHV. It's the off-highway vehicle program through, Bill Osbach's included. We have the local road retail sales owners and operators. We also have County Commissioners Dave Paul and Mark Dedenreiter, including other interested parties, U.S. Forest Service, basically looking at it as an economic development effort for both Woodland Park and Teller County in association with the $1 million industry, and that's, you see them every weekend with the motorcycles and the ATVs and the dune buggies, et cetera, that come through our community. And we are really focusing on how they impact Woodland Park, how they impact Teller County. Also, we're looking at programs that would allow some of their use on public and private roads. The big draw is Forest Service Trail 717, which is very unique, not only for the state of Colorado, but for a 5 to 6 state region. Many of these people that you see come from out of state, and we anticipate a large turnout again this summer. And so we're tying that as an economic development effort. There's also legislative activity that goes on with that. There's permitting processes that draw funds. So all of that is part of our committee and our efforts to promote that industry. And finally, you stole the thunder on Wine Tourism Day. It is May 11th. It has been a program that the Office of Economic Development in the city has been behind. And it's much along the line of a pilot program that really draws special events. So wine tourism happened to be the first event that we really looked at. We know we have a lot of special events that come to Woodland Park that draw literally thousands of people into our community. Our effort is how do we get those people that come to Woodland Park to come into our local shops. and obviously help their bottom line, their local business, their revenues. And so it's an interactive process. I encourage everybody to go to the website, woodlandparkuncorked.com, which not only identifies, I mentioned the wine tasting rooms. We had a very nice feature article in the Courier, which you may have seen today, that highlighted those tasting rooms. But if you get on the website, you'll also recognize that it goes to any number of different retailers, including hospitality, lodging, restaurants, specialty retail, etc. So hopefully we'll be able to gauge a little bit after that exercise how special event, in this case wine tourism, has had a positive impact on our retailers. With that, I'd be glad to address any questions or comments the council has.
Brian, the Colorado or Woodland Park Uncorked effort and the new website, is that a DDA initiative or something that economic development?
It is. I would say it's primarily economic development, although we have a strong DDA interest. I mean, obviously there are those on the DDA that have a strong interest in the wine business, but it's been primarily driven by, I would say, that side of the ledger, economic development.
Any other questions for Brian? Appreciate the update. It's nice that you give us an update once a month or however often, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
David, anything else?
We have nothing else.
All right. Comments, I have no comments on written correspondence, so it is 8:55, and we'll adjourn the meeting.